Hey everybody, welcome back to Up the Vibe. And today I'm joined by Walter Rucker, Paul Hamden, and Cyan to discuss their extensive contact with the Zetas. Hi, Paul and Cyan.
G'day, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And hi, Walter.
Good day, Uncle Joe.
Paul and Cyan, I wonder if you could start by introducing yourself and talk a little bit more about how this contact developed.
My contact started probably when I was about 18 months old. The Zetas used to come into the room. When I was 5, I was found outside of a locked house, laying on the lawn. I had basically been on craft and put back down into the front yard. It was really late at night. It just became a normal contact situation, I guess, that most people would class as abduction or something. But when I was 18, a craft came, and myself and 3 friends, we saw the craft about, I don't know, maybe 10 metres away, and the Zetas, they made the side of the craft clear and we could see them and they could see us. Then when I was about 28, they came and we had a bit of a tussle in regards to being taken, and we had a chat afterwards, and I just said, I'm not doing this anymore. Basically, if you want, contact, do it properly. Don't play those games. When I was about 50, we were able to talk the Zetas into bringing a craft, and so they landed a craft in Malaysia, and I had 20 people with me when it landed, and the Zetas came out and walked around. So this is obviously the condensed version, and we have craft all the time come, and not just ones that are sort of flashes in the sky or anything, but ones that we know are there and that we can record if we want, but we don't film, but we can record audio if we want to. So yeah, we have a lot of contact, and the Zetas have healed a lot of people. I mean, just so many people as well through the contact that we've had. So,
and Cyan?
Where do you start? I guess I have conscious recollection of contact with the betas, beings I came to know as the Zetas, from 4.5 years old. I first remember creating a situation whereby they brought me a small boy to play with, which sounds very strange, in my lounge where I was living. There was no reasonable excuse for the boy to be there, and I recall them standing around observing us play in a very natural play environment, except we were surrounded by a group of, I don't know how tall they were. When you're only 4, everybody looks massive, but at least 5 foot tall Zeta beings just watching. I've had numerous contacts with them over the years. To list them all would be here for hours. Various procedures taking place, contact on craft, being taken on craft, them being in the room with me, being taken out of the room by them. None of it's through hypnosis. It's all memory. I don't need any hypnosis to record what's going on. Now I work as a medium and have done for a long time. The beings that work with us talk through me a little, and obviously they've been doing that for a long time as well, which is great because now we can get some answers as to some of the experiences we had as children.
And how did you two meet each other?
On craft.
Really? Okay.
So we met when we were both 8 years old.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Okay. And did you know I guess when you met not outside the craft, did you know that the craft is where you met, or did you kind of work that out after?
No, we didn't know initially. As I said, I was sitting as a medium and developing for spirit connection and physical mediumship, and the people I sat with weekly began to say they were seeing the being from communion transfigured over my face. I didn't even know what that was. I wasn't interested in anything like that. So I didn't know what they were talking about. I ignored them for months. And then at some point, I decided to look it up because they kept insisting what they were seeing was happening. And when I looked it up, I saw an alien face, obviously, you know, communion film. At that point, I decided I needed to find out what was going on, and I went onto a website called PM4U, which was hosted by a man called Robin Foy, who was involved in the skull experiments. And on that website, chat forum, I found Paul, who was running a discussion group about extraterrestrial contact in physical mediumship circles. And so we started talking. That was, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. When I first got to that website, I saw a picture of Paul, and I instantly recognized him without recognizing him, which sounds very strange. But you know, when you walk past someone, you go, "I'm sure I know that person." It was like that kind of a reaction.
Okay.
It's like, I know that person. I need to talk to that person. I don't know why I need to talk to that person, and I don't know how I know them, but I just have to. And so I did. And here we are.
Yeah. And did you have the same, Paul? Did you say, "I know that person"?
No, not at all. So interesting, isn't it, how it all works? Screen memories work differently for everybody. So this is quite a complicated conversation. I keep saying this to everybody. You know, we have to condense all this information into very short blocks. It doesn't really work in regards to sort of communicating effectively. But with the Zetas, depends on the relationship with the Zetas. It depends on the type of screen memory you have. It depends on what you're meant to remember as well. You've got to understand, because we're both mediums, and I've been training with the Zetas for many years. I don't know how many years now. Because when they come through, they can actually be seen over the top of me as with Siam. They become themselves when they're talking through us. And so they then bring with them their abilities as well. Mm-hmm. Their abilities are known to the people that are sitting in the room. The room shifts, the energy shifts in the room, and they're able to perform certain functions, like create synthetic quantum environments. They can do lots of different things. And so when we say, did I know Cyan? Yeah, I guess on some level I would have known her, but I didn't know her consciously. That's the difference. It was only once we started talking and I started, getting some of the screen memory stuff drop away, I thought, this is a really interesting process. I went and spoke to the Zetas about it, and they said, yeah, look, this is what's happened. And they explained it to us, what happened. It was pretty interesting because there's an age difference. And for both of us to be on craft at 8 years old, obviously, there's got to be some level of time compression taking place.
Okay, yeah. And when all these events happening, when you said growing up, when these contacts were happening, was any of that, do you think, initiated by you, whether consciously, subconsciously, or was it all kind of random in a way?
No, look, so humans in the past were contacted and had, cellular matter taken, like, the scoop marks, because the consciousness of the hybrid mind, which is the spirit mind and the ET mind coming together, requires that the physical form actually be vibrating at a correct frequency for the cellular consciousness and the consciousness to be mapped correctly together. And so this is why a lot of hybrids and people that have taken have scoop marks, because in the past they were looking to try to work out what was the potential for races to actually acclimate with human society. Mm-hmm. So I didn't instigate anything. I actually didn't want to instigate anything. I never wanted anything to do with extraterrestrials. Anytime they came near me, I told them to go away. I'm probably the only person on the planet that doesn't like or didn't like extraterrestrials at all. Every time they came to me, I just told them to leave. I wasn't interested in anything that they had to say. If extraterrestrials tried to do anything, I would just turn and walk away. Mm-hmm. So it took a hell of a lot of convincing for them to work with me, because I just wanted nothing to do with them.
But there's probably some people listening right now who are very eager to meet the ETs, and and they're probably having no contact, or they feel like they're having no contact, and then they hear that someone is saying, "Go away, leave me alone," and they're getting a lot of contact. So do you think there's any rhyme or reason to that?
Well, what I've found is that races contact their own. So that's the first thing. So about 30% of the planet are hybrids, star children, indigo, or whatever you want to call them. You know, they're just human names. And those people are being contacted for various reasons. Cyan and I, we counsel contactees, abductees, experiences. We help them resolve their point of origin, all these sorts of things. And generally, we haven't come across anybody yet that hasn't had some level of hybrid consciousness with them. This is the big difference. So a lot of the people that are sort of saying, "Oh, I want contact," who do you want to contact? This is the thing. You'll find that generally people that are being contacted know specifically there's one primary race that's contacting them and a few other minor races. So if I said to you, "Well, who do you want to contact you?" If you're not a hybrid, you're going to go, "I don't know, anybody maybe," and that's not going to work.
So is it a little bit of knowledge or some sort of self-intuition that's maybe needed as well as the hybridization side of things?
It's definitely, I would suggest also that a lot of people that are being abducted don't want to be abducted as well. That's, like their perception of abduction. Like taking your children to the doctor for a needle. The kids don't want the needle, end of story. They think you're the worst person in the world, or the doctor's the worst person in the world. Look, Joe, in the end, there'll be contact when the races believe that humans are ready. Now, look at the current situation on the planet and then ask yourself, if you're an extraterrestrial, would you want to make contact?
With myself or in general?
Just in general, like with the planet, you look at the behavior.
Yeah, these are good questions. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's something to ponder in terms of whether you'd be considered as a friend or foe, and all these things. Yeah. And it must be, maybe even with all the technology, still quite daunting to be in that situation where, the reaction might have effects that,
Well, humans have the potential to seek saviors. That's the problem. Anybody that they have a perception that has more technology, more knowledge, more consciousness, they look up to, i.e. most people worship something, right? And so, of course, these leaders have said to us the issue that they have is that they believe that when ET actually disclose themselves to the human race, that many humans will want to create a new religion. They don't want that. They don't even want to even be seen in that light in any way, shape, or form.
Kind of goes back to, from what I can understand, the days of Christ, and his message was, "No, don't look at me as the savior and as someone special. I'm one with you." And so what did the Romans do? They crucified him and then created a religion around it.
There you go.
Just to piss him off. Yeah.
There you go. Look through history. Look at the behavior of humans. And if you're an extraterrestrial and you're reading the history of the planet, it's very violent.
Yeah, it's something that we're growing out of, I think.
I hope so.
And moving towards, yeah.
We'll do.
And do you have family connections? So brothers, sisters, maybe parents who are also connected to the same Zetas?
Generally with people, they are generational contacts. But I would suggest that because of the type of screen memory technology that's used, that they've probably got Class A screen memories, and Class A means that they have no ability to be able to remember the memories of contact. Other people have Class C, and Class C are the ones that have got the little biometric timers on them, and at a certain point in time, the screen memory drops and the person remembers, generally around the age of 40.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I'm coming up to 40 myself, so I'll let you know.
There you go. I've spoken to a lot of people that have said, "Oh no, I've never been taken." I've said, "Oh, that's all right. Tell me your life story," and they'll start telling me their story, and I'll just sit there and go, tick, 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 tick. And in the end, I go, and so you're telling me that you've never been taken and never had contact? And I go, that's right. And I say, lovely to meet you. That was wonderful. And I walk away, I think, Class A screen memories. And I don't say it about everybody, believe me, I just don't. It's more about knowing what are the signs and not symptoms, what are the signs that someone's been taken or had contact and they don't even recognise them themselves.
When you talk about screen memories, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So screen memories are given. I'll give you, and I will go through the categories now because it's not really intuitive for anybody. So Class A memories are the ones that you're given where you can't remember that you've been taken, i.e. you were driving down the road, next thing you know, you're back in your car, you're about 50 miles away, and you've been gone for 6 hours or something, Yeah. That's Class A. You just got no idea what's going on. Class B is you're flying a UFO or a UAP, and they're teaching you how to fly the UAP, and you're having a great time, and that's what really is taking place is something else. So something else is happening to you, but you're flying a UFO or having a coffee with aliens. That's a screen memory. C is when you're possibly contacted or taken, floated out of bed, put up onto a craft. Don't really remember anything. You just feel like in the morning you've been hit by a bus, and then over the days, weeks, or months, or years, you start to get small bleed-throughs of consciousness. And those Class C screen memory technologies are designed to fail. As you become more mature consciously, everything, what happens is the memory drops down so that you can take it. Screen memories are only given to humans to provide your local mind or your construct stability, and it's classed as what's called scaffolding.
Okay. And when you say Class C, is that something that's more physical in nature? Your physical body is part of it, or is that the same for all of them, or is some of it's more astral?
For all of them. It's the same. It's all consciousness. This is the thing. You've got an etheric body. Your etheric body is a mirror image or a mapping of the physical body. And of course, these days, the technology is able to be placed into the etheric body. And the etheric body is able to hold the technology correctly as well. That's why, that's why they need to do the mapping from when you're born all the way through, so that when they need to apply something to your etheric body and your consciousness, they already know at what frequency they need to place it in at.
Okay. And what would you say astral travel and out-of-body experiences are within that mapping? Are they?
They're not.
They're not.
I've just finished writing a study guide on astral travel, and it's for beginners. And I've astral traveled a lot myself. And I started astral traveling when I was 5, which was great, and loved to walk around, had no fear, didn't care about anything. As a kid, used to go through walls and everything. It's great. Astral traveling is nothing to do with screen memories. Astral travel is about your consciousness leaving your body and just cruising around.
And the same for out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, I imagine, as well. Yeah. Fascinating. And in terms of trying to give evidence for people that might be listening that are quite skeptical of this, what kind of I've heard you before talking about trying to provide evidence, and I'm sure it's very difficult to provide evidence, and actually possibly impossible with some people, because it's not just about providing, it's also about receiving, and not everyone's ready to receive, I imagine. But what would you say if someone said, can you provide the evidence?
Do you want to answer that question? Oh, okay. So the thing is with evidence is for specific people. If there was, here's the question back to you. We know that certain government organisations have the evidence. Why aren't they providing it to the public? They've already got it. Why don't they just give it? So if I'm getting evidence and I've got evidence, and so a million other people, multiple millions of people have evidence in various forms, could be things like marks that you've been given, could be photographs that you've taken of those marks, it could be footage, audio recordings. Why would you even bother to put yourself out there with the information when we've got CGI, Photoshop, people that troll the internet, we've got all the keyboard warriors. It doesn't matter what you put out there, someone's going to go, that's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's sort of my thoughts as well. And I was thinking about this when I was thinking about the question, is that if someone said, right, Paul, please predict something in the future, tell me, get some information. By saying what the prediction is, you're almost going to change the timeline, change the future. That kind of affects it. So it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so there is the
case,
possibility to do predictions. Mediums can do predictions. They don't need ET contact to do a prediction. Spirits can actually do predictions as well. It's more about what is evidence. To me, evidence is you look at a wide range of people that have been unwell, like Kathleen Martin. I'm not sure if you've seen that interview where she states that she was healed of being unwell after 22 years by the Zetas. You've got other
I'm not familiar with that. If you want to expand on that.
Well, there you go. She's the ex-international director of MUFON that stated that. We've got other people that have been cleared of specific entities by the Zetas, which are the reptilian beings. We've got many people that have been healed by the Zetas that actually have got medical documentation for themselves. If you look in the primer of the Zeta race, which is a free download PDF, there's evidence in there as well. But at some point, I just give up giving evidence. I'm not interested in giving evidence. My relationship with the Zetas is what matters. Cyan's relationship is what matters. Not saying to the public, look, here's another 10 people that were healed, because after a while, you just give up.
Yeah. But there'll probably people that are out there thinking, I need to experience this or see something to believe it. And,
I don't blame them. I actually don't blame them at all. But if you want some evidence, read the primer of the Zeta race. It was written by a scientist.
There's testimonials on the website as well.
There you go. There's all testimonials on our website about the healings they've got from the Zetas.
One of them was written by a retired government scientist in Canada. So,
yeah. And a lot of people think that to get to the point where they're able to make contact, they feel that they have to do a lot of inner work, a lot of shadow work, work on their mending a lot of their issues in their lives and things. But imagine, given how young you were when you had this contact, you hadn't had time to do all this. So do you think, have you been doing that as you've gone through and found more contact? Has that been a part of the life, the sort of shadow work side of things, or
we do a lot of shamanic work. Obviously, we work with shamanic spirits. So we don't just work with extraterrestrials. First, we work with a wide range of beings. And, the thing is shadow work. I think that everybody does some level of introspection, some level of wondering why, all these sorts of things. Do the races actually care if you do or don't? Well, look what happens. Millions of people, if that's true in regards to the numbers, are abducted. I don't believe any of those people were sitting there, chanting Om and were suddenly taken because they were doing that. They were just taken because that was the point in time that they were meant to be taken. Okay? It's the people that don't have any contact that are going, I think I should do, if I'm going to do C5, I need to meditate, be clear, provide stillness. And of course, yes, it does. It helps. It supports you and your consciousness into clarity, into that state of stillness where you're able to perform the C5 protocol. And yes, it does work. But the thing is, you've got to ask yourself, what is your mind like? When you are still, what is stillness within your own mind? Would a being want to heterodyne with you? Heterodyne means like binaural beats, to have one frequency, say extraterrestrial, with all the other frequency. Do they want to find a point of contact with you? And it doesn't matter how much work you do, if your mind is not clear or all over the place, a being is not going to want to come. On the other side of the coin, if we want to talk about some other negative entities, they'll definitely come, and they'll come anytime that you want them to come, and they'll pretend to be beings that they're not, and they'll give people a lot of problems. So people need to be aware that the first thing that someone should be doing is trying to evidence their own contact with any being, even a spirit person, as to who that being actually is.
Mhm.
Because we're seeing a lot of people at the moment that are being told to get implants by beings. We're saying don't do it.
No. How did you find out, or how did you discern that the beings that you were in contact with were benevolent?
So what I did was,
assuming they are,
I said to the Zetas, tell me 5 things that you're going to do in the next 12 months. And I wrote it all down, and they did every single one of them. And I don't mean like, I'll find a feather on the driveway. I mean like bring a craft and land it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
because I said to them, I'm just not going to work with you if you don't give me evidence.
And did you suspect that maybe they were trying to lure you in, gain your trust before, doing some nefarious activity, which I think could happen, but I imagine not with you. But was that something that crossed your mind?
No, absolutely. And so I remember when they first came and said, we'd like to work with you, and I just said, go away. And for 6 weeks, they came nearly every second day. I said, listen, there's plenty of other people to annoy on the planet. Go and annoy them. I'm not interested. They would show themselves to me. They would appear as distortions. I'd have spirit people next to me trying to talk to me, and then an ET would turn up. And I said, I just don't want to work with you guys. I'm just not interested, all right? Mm-hmm. And I think that they realised that because I was so sceptical, I think that my middle name should be Skeptic, because they know that I'm so sceptical, that in the end they thought, we actually will work with this person because they're going to evidence to themselves what contact is. And that's why in New South Wales, the craft actually landed and the beings came out, because they told us they were coming. We knew that that was the day that they were coming, and that we had gained enough evidence, enough trust with each other, that when they said they were going to do something, they actually did it.
When you say you were skeptical, what do you mean by that? Because I imagine you weren't skeptical that they existed, but you were skeptical.
Oh, no, I was never skeptical that ET existed.
Yeah.
I was skeptical about motives.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the contract is between myself and the races is, the minute you do anything wrong, it's all over.
Okay, both ways, I imagine.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so we might turn on to the talking a bit more about the healing side of things. What type of things have the Zetas done regarding healings? Can you talked about?
Sorry.
I'm just trying to. There's been so much. Well, seeing as I mentioned it earlier, we have a testimonial on the website by a retired ex-government scientist. He wrote a paper about how somebody that he knew received an etheric ear from the Zetas. The person who had this healing had no ability to hear in one ear. Rhymes.
Okay.
No ability at all. And the Zetas basically worked to create essentially an etheric implant or an etheric ear that was connected to her auditory system, so she can actually hear through that ear. Now that was done in, I don't know, 2015?
Something like that.
The ear is still working now. The ear is tested every year. And if you go to that testimonial on the website, that's all laid out and presented with all the graphics from the auditory experiments that they used. Mm. We've had other healings where they've essentially created a surgical environment, if you like. We've had 2 people at a time come and lay on healing couches. We go into trance to facilitate the Zetas to work. They come in with their technology in an etheric sense and energetic sense, although it can still be seen by the physical eye as well as the third eye, if you like. And people have been, they've been able to get up off the table and do a 5K run where they've not been able to do that for 15, 20 years, and were on the point of having surgery on their back, or they've had a large skin cancer removed, where they were about to have it literally removed the following day with a medical appointment.
Yeah, and also you've got people like Kathleen Martin, who was unwell for 22 years, well known globally as Betty and Barney Hill's niece, states that she was healed by the Zetas. I mean, to me, it's all documented, it's all there. People just need to do some research.
Yes.
They need to watch some of the videos on our YouTube channel, and they can see that there's evidence there. Now, at some point, either a person will totally reject what we're saying, or they'll just go, you know what, there's something going on around this too. We don't know what it is. We're okay with that because we get contact all the time with the Zetas and with other races. Not so much these days with a lot of other races, but more about it's because we evidence. It's like you go to a medium and you say, the medium says to you, look, I've got your grandmother with you. And you go, well, okay, tell me some stuff that my grandmother used to do with me, you know. And so you're going to try to evidence the information the medium gives you about the spirit person. That's common sense. And so the extraterrestrials expect that rather than people just channeling and saying, you know, I'm talking to a being from the 9th dimension or whatever dimension, and there's absolutely no evidence in regards to that, or saying that they're working with beings, but all you're being only ever contacted in your dream states, and you've got no way to evidence that information. Why would they try to evidence themselves? They know that you're not going to ask for any evidence. And so beings, even spirits, trickster spirits, they can actually pretend to be ET. And they do. They say, yeah, I'm an extraterrestrial from Sirius A. And the person goes, oh, this is awesome. I've got an ET guide. And the spirit people are like, this is so much fun. We love this.
Yeah. Imagine that ability, though, is coming to an end a little bit. Are people being a bit more discerning now and able to?
That's why we're here. That's why we're talking. We want people to evidence, to discern, to use common sense. And the more we talk about this, the more people go, yeah, I'm starting to really think about what's being said now, and especially what's coming through them. Because a lot of people that are developing mediums, they just seem to, abdicate their responsibility as a person to a being. Whereas you shouldn't do that. You should hold on to your sovereignty as a person. And then say, well, if you're who you are, if you are who you say you are, then we're going to go through an evidential process in regards to that.
Yeah, so sovereignty is something that I definitely learned more about since COVID and everything, and how the media, I realized how much the media was in control of my sovereignty or my decision making, and that was something that I wasn't really aware of for a long while, and that's so important now. I feel like that's really kind of given me sort of an enhancement in my own self, my own sovereignty and knowledge, and seeing. And I guess it's important if I ever meet a Zeta to see them on the same level. Would you say?
I would suggest that you be very careful if any being comes to you and says that they're a Zeta, or any being, that you always evidence that, so that you just have to ask them to work out how they're going to evidence you, and then sit back and wait. Be patient in regards to that. It's okay to do CE5 and see beautiful flashing lights up in the sky, all that. That's for you, that can be for anyone, a lot of evidence, that you've done the CE5, it just happened to correlate with a light.
Yeah.
But when they start talking to people and getting people to do things, I'd suggest that humans at this point really do need to be aware that there are races out there that don't hold humanity in very high regard at all, and would probably not be trusted or shouldn't be trusted. And in regards to that, everyone just needs the evidence and use common sense.
Are you familiar at all with Elena Danaan?
Sorry, the who?
Name? Elena Danaan?
No, not at all. No.
Oh, sure. No, at all. Okay. Someone I've written a book called Alien Races, and she talks about all the different races, and it's where some of my knowledge has come from. But I would, it's one person, so I would like to hear more from other people. But a lot of it is stuff that I've picked up from elsewhere. So, but I imagine there's thousands out there. It's not. She talks about 100 races and just gives a brief on each one. It's quite fascinating. I'd recommend it for anyone who might be, just touching on the subject.
I've met about 10 races. Know a lot of those beings personally, individually as well. Some of them have also evidenced themselves, which is pretty interesting. For the races that haven't evidenced themselves, I sort of keep them at arm's length, which is a good thing. Because the thing is once you've actually got a race that's evidenced themselves, you can just say to that race, well, what do you think of the other race? What's your opinion of the other race? But if you think about it, say there's 200 million, billion, whatever, galaxies. If there's the potential for one planet in every galaxy, which takes, say, 100,000 light years to cross for one galaxy, there's probably like 200 million, 200 billion races. So,
Yeah. And you said all these different races that you've met, were they all variations of Zeta, or were they just all over the place?
They're all over the place. Yep. So there's the Sirius A beings that we've had and Sirius B. I've met some beings that claim to be from a place called Alpha Centauri. Other beings, Palladian. I've met a Palladian entity, very, very lovely person. We've had dealings with the Anunnaki, which was great, an awesome experience. Just lots of races. It's been great. I'm glad actually that they convinced me to work with them, because once you work with a race and you've evidenced them, you're able to then meet all these other races as well.
I recognize some of those names. The one that sticks out maybe is the Anunnaki in terms of history. Did you get to learn a bit more about the ancient times from the Anunnaki? Yeah.
Yeah, we've spoken to them a fair bit about their history, their history and their history on this planet. So.
And what did they say? Because I've heard that they were here and they left it to other races. Is that right? That they kind of
I asked them if Sitchin had help or guidance from them in understanding the Sumerian tablets, Sumerian writings, early writings, cuneiform and all of that. And they said that they had, and I said, are the translations that we have accurate? And they said they are. They represent an accurate history of what happened.
Yeah, there's a lot to discover there for a lot of people. It'll be quite mind-blowing and much more dense than what we're led to believe in terms of.
But if they look up the work of Zachariah Sitchin, then that'll point them in the right direction.
And is Hamlet's Mill, is that the book? Or is that that's a separate book?
He published many books.
Yeah. On the healing side of things, why do you think some people are healed and not others?
So races generally heal their own. That's the first thing. If you're from another race and you incarnate as a human, then there's the potential generally during contact that you're going to have your immune system somehow go haywire. You'll find, if you do a bit of research, a lot of contactees have a lot of issues with their immune systems. So they generally will start healing their hybrids or their contactees or whatever, so that they can ultimately help them to do the work that they're meant to do. Some people feel they have specific roles to play. We don't particularly feel that at all for ourselves. Some people are on a mission. We're not on any mission. We don't have a mission at all. And so other people, we questioned them about this. Why are you healing people? Why are you not healing people? And that's what they said. They said, we heal our own. And then, of course, they then healed 10 people that weren't Zetas. And we thought, well, how does that work? Like you said that you don't heal people that are not from your race, and you've just done that. And they said, yeah, well, we've got free will. If we want to change our mind, we're allowed to.
We weren't
Okay.
going to argue with that.
And we weren't going to argue.
Okay.
We let
If-
them get on with
You
it.
know what? If they landed in craft and they healed every person on the planet, I'd say, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening right now and they want to be healed, what do you think they can do to initiate that? Is there anything?
I think that a person, if they want to be healed, like any other human, can speak to source consciousness, speak to the universe, speak to beings, and can ask for healing. Now, some people aren't healed, and there's various reasons for that. And that's a very big conversation as to why some people aren't healed. Other people are healed straight away. You'll always hear of all these dramatic healings when people ask to pray to Jesus or whatever, and they got a healing. Healing's a very, very difficult conversation because there's so many nuances to it.
Would they? Is there any patterns or time limits that dictate when the Zetas might intervene, as in when they would heal and when they wouldn't heal? The sort of you can do this now, but not at some point.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. That's a really good question. All right, so it would depend on the current state of the person's health. It would also depend on the cognitive ability of the hybrid to be in contact with the race as well. It would depend on whether a hybrid came across somebody like myself who had contact with the Zetas. And, we do get a lot of requests for lots of different things from people. Can the Zetas heal me? Can the Zetas talk to me? Can the Zetas tell me where I'm from before I became a human? We get all this, questions all the time. And so these are areas that we work in because it's not just black and white as to what's going on with humanity. That's the difference. And a lot of things are quite complicated. Some people just aren't ready for contact, and some people just aren't ready for healing either.
Mm-hmm. And could the issues that people are suffering has some sort of karmic element to it that has to be fulfilled, or do you think all issues that people suffer shouldn't be necessary at all? There's no karmic aspect to it.
I'm sort of in two minds about this. Sometimes I think to myself that there is no such thing as karmic debt, that people just wield it like a sword to try to punish others. That's the first thing. And then another time I'll see a guide come through from a previous generation, another, like 3 generations previous, that's still working with that generational line. And I think to myself, there is the obvious linkage in spiritual consciousness to guides. So that's what I'm in two minds about that. I think that's a very interesting subject, though.
Well, I'm not. I don't think karma exists. And the reason I don't think karma exists is it presupposes that there is an event that has happened in the past that you need to pay for. And I don't recognize a past, present, and the future. So there can not be any past circumstances that creates a situation where I have to pay a penance or pay a remittance or a reparation for, because there's no past. The second part of it is the fact that I don't see the value in that, in having a karmic instance that you feel like is a response to some misgiving or adulteration of some prior event. If that's the case, we'd spend all our lives doing karmic instances because we spend all our lives screwing up.
Yeah.
That's
So
why
I don't have I don't
two minds about Walter, because on one moment I actually am thinking the way you are, and then I'll suddenly come across some situation, well, I'm not going to disclose publicly, and with somebody, and then I'll realize that it's not karmic, it's just generational. I think we need to pull that word karma and throw it away. And we need to go, okay, if this is a generational problem, that's the difference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and generational, like in generationally being abducted and having contact, is the same thing. That's why I discard the word karma altogether, and just it's just not part of a vocabulary that's meaningful.
Okay.
All right. We'll agree to agree.
It's interesting.
Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate
That's
that.
okay. No, we're all agreeing, you see, because
Yeah, no, we're in agreement. It's just how we get to the same point.
Do you see that instead of karma, do you see it as addressing some sort of balance between the dark and light? I feel the universe is this kind of this delicate balance
No.
that
But
has to be played out, or is that a dualistic thought?
Thank you that you just said those words. You see, this is the thing with human thinking or consciousness. It's either one or the other. But I'll give you an example of the Zetas. When the Zetas talk about time, have you ever seen a plasma ball? They have those little tendrils that light up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they perceive time. That you are at the center
Okay.
of all these undulating little timeline threads that come out. And so they see it from an expansive state of mind. When you ask the Zetas about good or bad, black or white, they're like, that doesn't exist. That's just dualistic thinking. Try and think outside of that, think in a multi